Finally, a Rotax 122 built without compromise. But it all starts down here. On these high-strung Italian two-strokes, the electrical system is everything. I'm routing the harness behind the stator so it doesn't cause any chafing. Every bolt gets a dab of thread locker and it is torqued to 10 Newton meters. The woodruff key must sit dead flat in its slot. The rotor goes on, followed by a fresh spring washer. I'm just nipping up the nut for now. We will lock the engine and hit the final torque specs later. I'm starting with thread hygiene. Every single M8 hole in the Rotax cases gets chased out with the plug tap. I'm not cutting new threads here, I'm just clearing the path. You do not want your studs to be locked up when you tighten them down. This also removes any reminiscence of Loctite from years of oxidation coming out of the flutes as well. Here's why it matters. If you skip, your torque wrench will basically lie to you. Dirty threads create friction. Your torque wrench will read this as friction and resistance, and before you know it, it'll give you the false reading what you don't want. When installing studs, you want the studs to be all the way wound in into the cases. This is just a little bit of a reassurance. By making sure the threads are all cleaned out of the case, you ensure the studs are all the way as far as they can get into the case. This stops them being pulled out when you tighten it down on the nut. Off camera, I made sure every single one of these holes were blown out. We aren't using the OEM steel studs anymore. We are grading them to a grade 5 titanium stud. They offer excellent tensile strength and, crucially, zero corrosion. I'm installing them with a light smear of light oil, clean threads, stable material and correct clamping. That is the base for reliability for an engine. Just a little tip. Make sure you got the crank stuffed with something so you don't have any foreign matter drop down inside. You do not want your engine to be wrecked at this stage. Now we move to the heart of the engine, the piston. I've lubricated the small end bearing, the piston pin, with high quality 2-stroke oil to ensure a safe first start. Pro tip time. Keep a clean, lint-free rag stuffed in the case opening at all times during this process. It only takes 1 split second for a circlip to be dropped into the bottom end, which means splitting the cases all over again if you can't get it out. Take your time setting the clips. Listen for the distinct click that confirms that they are backed into their groove. Another pro tip, turn the engine onto the side if you can to install the second circlip. Makes life easier and you've got that insurance that it won't drop down into the engine either. Choosing the right base gasket is crucial. If you go too thin, you run into detonation. If you go too thick, you're losing power. I'm using a middle size gasket on mine. I've measured it and you'll see the measurements later on. With the piston well secured using the circlips we just installed, we move straight to the cylinder. I've given the bore a very light coating of the same 2-stroke oil from earlier. You need to line the ring gaps with the locating pins on the piston, then gently compress them with your fingers as you lower the barrel. This should be smooth and effortlessly. If you feel any resistance at all, stop immediately and recheck your ring alignment. Forcing a cylinder over a snagged ring. You do not want to break your ring or score your fresh cylinder surface. To verify the performance and reliability we are after, we have to check the squish gap. This is the physical clearance between the piston crown and the cylinder head at top dead center. I'm using a length of 3.25 solder shaped as a U shape over the piston crown. Now the piece of solder is in place, I'm taking extra care that everything stays nice and clean. Even a piece of grit here can affect how the measurement goes. I'm threading the nuts on by hand first to make sure everything feels nice and smooth. I'm not looking for a final torque yet, I'm just snugging everything down with a spanner across the four corners. It's now time to put the cylinder head on. I am loosely doing everything up by hand, then going over with a battery operated drill set on number 1. This ensures it's not over tightened. I'll go over it with the torque wrench set to 30 Newton meters. Then all we do now is rotate the rotating assembly backward and forward until it starts going loose again. After removing the solder, we bring out the digital calipers to measure the flat ends. We are looking for a specific window here. Our measurement comes out exactly as 1.38mm. For a high revving street build, this is the absolute sweet spot for us. It is tight enough to promote high velocity turbulence for the clean burn, but leaves enough headroom to prevent the piston from making contact with the head when things expand at full bore. With the specs confirmed, it's time for the final seal. I'm using a dab of grease to hold the O-ring in place so it doesn't shift while doing up or pinch in assembly. Time to torque these bolts back down 30 Newton meters, working in opposites like a star pattern. When I do these up, I like doing it in stages, so I do the initial 10, then 20, then onto the final torque of 30. It makes it sure everything goes down nice and even. Once the torque's been done and complete, I'll turn the engine onto the side and start tightening the stator to its final torque. The torque setting is 70 Newton meters and I use an oil filter band to hold everything in place. This makes it a lot easier. However, you need to get the right one. This small one only let me do it up to 25 Newton meters. I was able to complete the final torque of 70 with the larger one. 2 new oil rings go on the cylinder head, one on the inside, one on the outside. To help retain the ring on the larger one, you can use a little dab of grease again. These are new stainless steel bolts, all done up by hand to start with. Then they'll be torqued down to 10 Newton meters using a torque wrench again. This ensures consistency throughout the whole build using manufacturer specification for the hardware. I'm sorry guys, but I couldn't resist myself bringing out the polishing tools and polishing the cylinder head while it was in this stage. It just looked a bit dull, so I thought I'd get the Dremel out and using a bit of rouge, jeweler's rouge and a couple of mops, I went round the cylinder head to make sure it was all nice and clean. It's the cherry on the cake, isn't it? We don't see much of these engines, but I think it does make a good aesthetic piece when you see a nice shiny cylinder head. It makes the world of difference, I think, night and day. So if you made it this far through my video, I would like you to take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and comment about anything you're unsure about. I would be happy to try to help you. Well, the other thing is, if you notice that I haven't done anything quite right, I would like you to actually comment on the comments and tell me you've not done that right before I actually install this engine into the bike. Now we come into the close of this video. I would like to say the next one we'll probably be installing the engine back into its frame again. And you never know, we might even get around to doing the first start, which would be great. Can't wait to see this actually come to life again. I'm installing a V4 style reblock made by Italkit. Everything on this engine is Italkit. It's basically an Italkit engine. Would be great if they would give me a sponsor, to be honest. The amount of stuff I've used for them. Anyways, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.